Okay, if you like Iron Maiden, I think you'll enjoy this little article that I have for you here today. I found something from the Winnipeg Sun. This is September 19th, 1983. And so this is, basically what this is an article that was written to talk about the fact that Iron Maiden was coming to the area and going to play some concerts. And from a contextual standpoint, you understand in 1983, they're on the Peace of Mind tour. And Nicka McBrain is the drummer by now. And anyway, it's just this short little article with a couple of quotes from Bruce Dickinson, and I think you'll enjoy this. Now, the first thing that's interesting to note about this, though, and it always shows a little bit of the cluelessness of editors sometimes with newspaper articles, especially back in the day. And when you look at, if you're watching this as opposed to just listening to it, you're going to see a photo that goes along with this article. And I'll zoom into it a little bit so you can see it a little bit more clearly. But this is all scanned, newspapers, newsprint. And so it's not super clear, but you'll hopefully be able to see what I'm showing you here. So over on the right, of course, you have Steve Harris. Over there on the left, you have Dave Murray. Now, remember the date. This is 1983. Up here in the top, who do you see but Paul Di'Anno? Down here, you see Clive Burr. And then, right in between Clive Burr and Steve Harris is none other than Dennis Stratton, which is a name you don't hear a lot in discussions about Iron Maiden these days. But he actually played on Iron Maiden's first album. He was, before Adrian came in, he was the one that played. And so what's interesting here is that we have this article that's from the Peace of Mind period, and the promo picture that the newspaper used to go along with the article was several years old. And it's interesting because sequentially, Clive Burr had left the album before, Paul Di'Anno had left 2 albums before, and Dennis Stratton had left 3 albums before. Anyway, just kind of an interesting little thing to note when we look at some of these things, that there's a little bit of cluelessness that goes into some of these articles, but they're fascinating nonetheless. So the title of this article is Ghouls and Power Chords. And looking at what they put underneath the picture kind of tells the story of where this article is going to go. And it says, Iron Maiden, a cultured lot with a taste for the bizarre. Okay. Winnipeg. For a band named after a medieval torture instrument, England's Iron Maiden seems particularly cultured on the road. The band's road manager reads the Financial Times of London and used to work in a bank. The lead singer studies fencing when he is not touring. The band and road crew opt for a quick soccer game whenever they can. In concert, however, the name seems appropriate. Massive speaker banks send out wave after wave of mind-numbing heavy metal music. Denim-clad fans punch the air and respond to the singer's every whim and fancy. Not to everyone's taste, perhaps, but 5 million record buyers would probably disagree. In the midst of yet another 8-month tour, the 35-member Iron Maiden entourage play Calgary, Edmonton, and Saskatoon this week. Iron Maiden has toured its way to the top of the heavy metal heap and acquired one of rock music's most rabid following. Now, this is interesting that they make that point. They have toured its way to the top of the heavy metal heap. It's so interesting to look at this band. And I know I've talked about this before, and Iron Maiden fans know what I'm talking about. It's what they were able to accomplish with so little support from mainstream media. I remember as a kid, I discovered Iron Maiden on the album Number of the Beast. Never, at least I never heard any of those songs on the radio. The first time I ever heard an Iron Maiden song on the radio was Flight of Icarus off of Peace of Mind. And I think I heard it once, twice maybe. It's possible. I never heard anything off of Power Slave on the radio, although it wouldn't have surprised me if something on there had been played on the radio. But they just didn't get that kind of support. And yet they became so massive, such a powerful force in the world of heavy metal. And it just says there, they toured their way to the top. And I point that out because it was not the mainstream media that was helping them get there. It was them working for it and putting out great music. Okay, quote, "We never let the fans down as far as going out and doing something silly like trying to put out a hit single or one of those nice synthesizer tunes," unquote, lead singer Bruce Dickinson explained in an interview before a Saturday night's Winnipeg concert. Quote, "That isn't what we're all about. Heavy metal is really all about live performing. It's a form of music that comes from the gut," unquote. Unlike England's Judas Priest, Iron Maiden has stayed away from the genre's ubiquitous leather uniform. Dickinson, guitarist Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, bassist Steve Harris, and drummer Nico McBrain come across as anything but fashion plates. Fashion plates were historically like lithographs, etchings of things that were considered high fashion. Goes way back. Let's see. I think the best word for our style of dress on stage is tasteless, Dickinson laughed. Iron Maiden's visual aid is a mascot named Eddie, a ghoulish creature who graces all the band's album covers and now makes an appearance at each show. Dickinson describes Eddie as a, quote, tongue-in-cheek version of what every heavy metal fan looks like: wasted, scraggy hair, rotting teeth, vile green color dripping flesh, unquote. During the Winnipeg show, Eddie appeared both as an immense head behind the stage and as a 15-foot character roaming around the stage wearing a straitjacket. And by the way, Maiden fans will know this, but we get a lot of people that watch these videos that don't necessarily know all the weird little details. The name Eddie is from that word head. When they were early on in the days of Iron Maiden, they would have basically, it looked like a head that was up on the stage, and even smoke would come out of the mouth, and they called it the head or the Ed. It was the British, when you say it with the British accent, it comes out as Ed, and it just turned into Eddie, and then that head turned into this, the corpse creature that everybody kind of associates now with Van Halen. That's Eddie. That's where the word Eddie came from, was the word head. Let's see. Eddie's presence, Dickinson said, allows the band to provide a visual element while being separate from it. That distinction between being a musician and showman has been blurred by quite a few bands to their detriment, he said. As soon as you start putting makeup on, people start thinking you're a clown, which Kiss isn't. And I have a lot of respect for them as musicians. It's funny that he says that because Iron Maiden actually toured with Kiss. Because you can almost hear him in the interview starting to say that, and then, oh my gosh, they're going to quote me. Because they all knew each other and they're friends, Anyway, so let's see here. But a lot of people outside the band look down upon them for putting on their whole image. Really, all they are trying to do is make everything more entertaining. So anyway, and that's the end of the article. I just think that stuff's interesting. But you can not Kiss. You don't have to like their music, but you can't really overstate the influence that they had on showmanship and the need for people to go put on a show. And for Iron Maiden, their character Eddie it's become such a part of who they are, and it created this thing that not a lot of bands are able to do, which is get themselves a mascot that kind of encompasses who they are, that everybody can see it. Assume I was in Thailand a couple of weeks ago, and I walked into this clothing shop, and there are a few rock band T-shirts in there, and what's prominently displayed? Iron Maiden. There's Eddie right there. And it's I'm sure there are people in Thailand that like Iron Maiden, but part of it is just that it's cool. And there was just something about that imagery that people just gravitate to. And it in some ways, even though they do put out truly spectacular music, I love Iron Maiden, that having that extra bit of that character really has made a big difference. And it helps from just simply a marketing standpoint, that everybody has this creature, this thing that they rally around that represents them. And then, you find that character on every single album cover, and then it just brings that that continuity to everything that they do. And so anyway, I thought this article was just kind of interesting. I thought you'd find that interesting if you're an Iron Maiden fan. And please follow the channel, like the video. If you're a Maiden fan, you probably know other people that are too. And so throw this on your Facebook timeline, email it to your friends, whatever. Please share it with other people. We'd really appreciate that. And as always, have yourself a fantastic day.